Was Hung Forthwith by C.S.A. Turnbo. This account was narrated to me by Mr. Dave Garrett at Tulsa, Indian Territory on the 30th of August, 1906. Mr. Garrett served in the Federal Army during the troubled days of the 60s. Here is his story. My father was a staunch Democrat, but he was opposed to slavery. Though while he was admitted that white people were much superior in intelligence than the Negro race, yet he said that it was wrong to enslave any race of people and hold them as property. My father was also a Union man and contended that the Stars and Stripes was the flag for us to live under. Now, when I was 23 years old, I enlisted in the United States Army. Now, this was 1861, soon after the war broke out. I belonged to Company F, the 24th Missouri, S.H. Boyd Regiment, and S.P. Barris was my captain. Now to the story I set out to tell you, said Mr. Garrett. It was in the month of October, 1864. Now the Confederate General Sterling Price was on his way through Missouri with a heavy force of cavalry. As he and his army was advancing, it was supposed that he might march to St. Louis and attempt to capture the city, and the command I belonged was on waiting orders at DeSoto in Jefferson County. Early one morning, a stranger made his appearance in our camp, claiming to be a deserter from the Confederate Army, and his pants and shirt were ragged and dirty, and he was without a coat. He was a suspicious-looking character, and we looked at him as a spy. We suspected him so strong that the commander ordered him arrested under the charge that he had entered into our lines in disguise for the sole purpose of finding out the condition of our troops. The weather was cool, and the prisoner stood in need of a coat. As soon as he was arrested, he was placed in a guardhouse to await an investigation of his case, which could not be done until the following day. At night, the sergeant of the guard, who was a generous-hearted man, offered to loan the prisoner his overcoat for the night, to which the prisoner said he was glad to accept. A special guard was placed over him, which was relieved every 2 hours and replaced by another man. During the night, it developed that the man was a real spy, and that his name was Cole, and if I mistake not, he lived in Iron County, Missouri. Now the guard was notified of this and was instructed to not let the man escape, and that he would be tried for his life on the following morning. Now soon after daybreak, when the sergeant of the guard approached close to the guardhouse, the prisoner, who was not fettered, took off the overcoat and said, "Here, Sergeant, here is your coat, for which I thank you very much for the use of last night." And the sergeant took the coat and remarked, "Prisoner, you are as welcome to it, for it made you feel more comfortable last night." As he spoke these words, he stepped back a few paces to put the coat on. Now the guard was standing a few yards from where the prisoner was. Just as the unsuspecting, non-commissioned officer had got the overcoat partly on, and while both hands were engaged, the prisoner darted at the sergeant with an open knife in his hand. Now the knife had a long, keen point in the edge, and the prisoner had jerked it from his concealment on his person. As the prisoner reached the sergeant, he cut his throat from ear to ear. It was done so quick that the guard nor the spectators were dumbfounded, and no one had time to interfere to save the sergeant's life, and his victim fell to the ground in the agony of death. When the dying man struck the ground, the guard rushed at the prisoner without firing at him, and the latter struck him with the knife, and he fell dead. As the guard sank down from the effects of the fatal knife, one of the other guards made an attempt to shoot at him, but the prisoner was quicker with the use of the knife than the soldier was with the gun, and the former darted at him and plunged the blade of the knife into his body, which inflicted a dangerous wound. Now in the meantime, a great stir and excitement was aroused among the officers and the privates. The spy, seeing that his only way to escape was by flight, and with the blood-stained knife in his hand, he made a dash for liberty. The soldiers were ordered to capture him alive if possible, and a large body of troops mounted their horses and pursued the fleeing man, who ran 1/2 mile from the guardhouse before the soldiers were enabled to surround and capture him. But he made a desperate resistance before he was made to give up his knife, and he was brought back to the guardhouse, where 2 of his victims lay dead and another one desperately wounded. Though a number of the men admired his bravery and could not blame him for trying to escape, but their ire was roused for the killing of their 2 comrades and wounding another, and they declared that he should suffer at once and not wait for a court-martial to be convened. And so he was ordered to be hung forthwith. A stout rope was ordered to be brought forward, and the doomed man was conducted to a walnut tree which stood near Governor Fletcher's yard gate in the town of DeSoto, where one end of the rope was made into a noose and put around the neck, and the other end was thrown up over a limb of this walnut, and his hands were pinioned together behind his back. The man was pulled up from the ground and hung till he was dead. He died brave. He never flinched or asked for mercy. At the time of the execution, I was attached to the 14th Iowa, said Mr. Geralt, as he ended this interesting story of the war.